So if Drake offered you $1 million to go on
Fuck
tour, to go on tour with him,
Fuck Drake.
a world tour, he pays you $1 million, and you'll still say no.
So you're asking me to sell my soul?
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the For the Fans podcast. Today is a very special episode because today we have our very first guest. Danny, do you want to do the pleasures of introducing who it is?
Gladly. Thank you very much, Shaden. We have the fabulous Tom Grut, superstar, photographer, director, artist manager, and a lover of Treasure Island Muppets.
Muppet Treasure Island.
Muppet Treasure Island. Thank you. So I haven't even seen it. He's just educated us as he's walked in. So yeah, we can. What can you tell us about that to start? What is Muppet Treasure Island?
I'd love to tell you about Muppet Treasure Island. It's Treasure Island, but with Muppets.
Pretty self-explanatory. Okay.
Yeah, so it's like as good as you can imagine in your head. It's even better than that.
Is it a movie? Not
yes.
okay.
Yeah, it's a musical.
Oh.
With Tim Curry and Kermit the Frog, and he plays the captain of the ship. There
Amazing.
are Muppet pirates. There is love. There's loss. There's treasure.
And it's on an island.
On an island.
Is it real life or is it animated?
It's
No,
the
Muppets.
bro.
Muppets. So there's puppets.
Okay, so
Yeah,
but
big,
it's not like an animation.
No,
they
it's
are
like
actual
big
puppets.
set pieces.
That's pretty
big,
cool.
like actual islands, like
Okay.
pirate ships. Like,
So wait, what got you into Muppets Treasure Island?
it was actually my dad.
Oh, I fully thought you were about to say your child.
No, this is like our family film. We used to like reenact the characters when we were kids.
That's really cool.
Yeah, but it is actually great. It's not even like nostalgia great. It's actually great family film.
Have you shown it to your son?
Not yet. It's just like a little bit too young. Yeah,
He's
he
not
prob-
old enough to really comprehend
yeah,
the storytelling, right?
Yeah. He needs like a couple more years, I think.
Yeah,
you gotta find the right moment.
And only when he can like get on acting it out, right? And reenact
Yes.
it.
Yeah. We're like almost there, but like, if the first time he watches it is in a moment for him, then like maybe it never will be.
You want it to stick in his brain.
Yeah.
That's valid.
I'm gonna sit there like watching it.
Well, as great as and insightful as that was, I am super keen to pick your brains about what you do because without like literally being a fangirl on it, I've loved your stuff for years.
Thank you.
Like I am such a huge fan of your photography and your videography. I have like a burning question of what came first, like your love for photography or your love for music?
For me, it was probably music. And I think I was doing video for a while before I was doing photography. But I was mainly editing. So like my brother directs, and so I was working with him and editing for him, and actually like acting in films we made originally. And then eventually I was getting more into music and wanting to work with musicians, and didn't really have editing's not like an easy skill set to have to get into it. And so I was kind of starting to dabble with photography, and then I was using that as a way to reach out to artists and ask, try work with them, and then started shooting live music around the same time. So yeah, music, everything kind of for me drove from music and wanting to work in the music world. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite out of photography and videography?
It kind of depends on the context. So I think live music's shooting, like taking photos at shows, is my favorite. It's also nice because it's I can kind of just show up and then like react to it. Like it's really reactive, which I really enjoy, and it's like a really quick like the next day pretty much everything's done. Photos are done, and you can do the next one. Video, there's a lot more prep, a lot more kind of, just being across from pre-production to post-production, which is really cool, and I love it, and I really love being on set the most, but definitely just like a lot more going on that I'm trying to stay on top of, whereas like live music just really feels like the most freeing and fun thing to do. Yeah.
I don't know if there was ever a defining moment, but when did you kind of realize that like it's definitely an art to capture that moment in live music? Like you always have the moment displayed so perfectly. Not everyone has that. Like when did you kind of realize like, shit, I'm really good at this?
It's very kind. I think when I started, it was I like a lot of what I was doing was capturing photos and then making them how I wanted them in the edit. So I was doing like a lot of post work on edits to kind of get photos looking a certain way. And I was a lot more anxious about missing moments. So like you kind of see people post photos from a show and it might be like a jump shot or just something big that happened in the show, and that kind of feeling that when you go to a show you have to get those moments to be a good concert photographer. And so I think the journey for me was like just like a gradual one of being more confident in being able to actually get what I want in camera, and also just like trusting my instincts in the moment and just being like whatever feels right. And I think a lot of it for me has been like learning the technical stuff to like completely ignore it and become more like feelings based, because I think that's, you know, like you can have all the photos you're going through in the edit and, you know, there might be one that like technically on paper feels like the right one, where it's like there was a jump shot that happened and I'm like, this is what I was trying to get, but then I'll be looking at it and it doesn't feel right. Like it's whether it's like the lighting's not quite right, and there might be like a quieter moment where the lighting's like beautiful and that conveys like a lot more to me. So I think it's just like a gradual process of just trusting that and just being like, no, like I like these images. And I think all concert photographers have a different idea of what they think is like the right moment. And I think just learning to trust that. And yeah, I think it's, I don't know if there was I think the only time I had like a moment where it felt like things changed a little bit was probably the first time I shot Dua Lipa. And I think like up until that point I've been shooting more hip hop artists, or like was only trying to, and wasn't as interested in shooting other genres. And then actually shooting that show and the response to that show was like quite different than anything else I'd done. And it's kind of when I realized too that we all definitely live in our own little bubbles a bit, and a lot of artists who are like quite important to me and like felt really big to me, to like most people, they actually don't know who they are. Whereas like Dua Lipa, everyone was like, Dua Lipa, you know, like you know, everyone I know was like, oh my gosh, the Dua Lipa photos. And it was just like really interesting to kind of see that perspective on it. And it was great. I mean, I love shooting pop shows. Like, I mean, like it's always the best, like best lighting, best like outfits. So does that answer the question?
100%. Yeah. I agree though, like pop definitely kind of makes it easier because they put on such a performance. Well, not makes it easy obviously, but there's a lot more to work with.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was like thinking how back in the day you used to take photos with your friends, or your partner would take a photo of you out by the water or something, and then you'd have 5 great ones, and this is what I did anyway, and you'd send them to your friends and you'd be like, which one do you like best? Which one should I post on Instagram? Like a lot of what you do also probably comes with, which you kind of just touched on, with like having the confidence in yourself and the feeling of like, this is the right shot. Like I feel like that's what myself and a lot of others would really struggle with, is like kind of not having external validation, or, you know, like just really having to trust yourself that this one shot of the 100 that I've taken is the best one. And often it's like of like 1,000 or 2,000, and like you have to go through it so fast, and it's like such a quick choice to make in your head, like of yes no. And I used to actually keep a lot more of my raw files, but now I only copy off like my like first like big select, because I'm like, I know I'm never going to go back to these other ones, you know, like there's, you know, if it's not there in that first moment, then I'm like, it's, you know, it's not actually there. And like, it's also been like that kind of journey for me, like even like in how I can like post them on like online. I used to do like a lot more posts from like a set, like I like do lots of different ones, but now I've really tried now to like any show I shoot just to have like one post, and just to like really push myself to be like, what do I actually want in here? Because like, you know, like you can kind of like post a handful of really good photos, but then if you've got like a handful in there that aren't, you know, like at the same standard, then, you know, like it doesn't feel quite as like, it's got like that punch to it. So yeah, everything is just kind of, I think, learning, and like I think that's a continual journey, is like just getting better at trusting your instincts.
Piggybacking off something you said earlier, like, what are the main differences between shooting like a hip hop artist as opposed to like a mega pop star like Dua Lipa, if there's any at all? Because I would assume there'd be, because they're different kind of performances, so I would assume you'd try go into it with the mindset of shooting it a little differently. Maybe I could be wrong.
I think it depends. Like It depends on, I think obviously there's like the different scales of like venues. So like if I'm going into like neck of the woods, the way I'm going to approach shooting it is completely different to Spark. Like I'm probably going with flash and I'm probably looking for different things. But I think like across the board, it's actually been more of a journey of trying to like not have that divide and just just reacting to what is in front of you. And just like every time I edit a set, it's like I have presets and stuff and I'm like, oh, like all these things will cross over, but every time it feels like it starts as like a completely new process for that show.
Yeah.
Sometimes it might be like a grittier edit or it might be like a cleaner one, but I don't know if that like always is like due to like a genre. It just can kind of like change per show.
Yeah.
But I think I've always kind of personally tried not to shoot hip hop artists to I've always tried to like cover, I don't know how to put this, like find like more like the beauty in it. Like, I mean, I love hip hop, you know, and like I can like, I try to see like, I think like, you know, like when I shot like shows like YG and stuff, it's like I was trying to find those like really like quiet or gentle moments with him, like just like a different side to them that's not like the tough exterior. I think I really enjoy like doing that with hip hop. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I think it's just an awesome way to like, because as someone who's like not a photographer at all, I always find it really interesting to see how like other photographers definitely take their own approaches to shooting shows, and especially because they all come out so differently.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I can tell when it's a Tom Grut photo. You know, I can see something like, oh yeah, Tom shot that,
Yeah,
without even
okay.
looking at the caption. So in saying that, is there like, how do you go by finding how like your own look and feel to a photo to like differentiate you from someone else? Because there's a million other like amazing photographers, but
Yeah.
you find a way to make yours stand out.
I think actually like a whole lot of the journey has been not trying to define myself by a style, because I feel like when I started making films, and you know, my brother and I'd have these conversations all the time, but it was always like, oh, what's our thing? Like, what's our style? Like, how do we do things? And I actually think where I'm at now, I feel like that way of thinking is really limiting. Like to be like, oh, like I do this thing, like this is my style. And again, it goes back to the feelings-based thing. It's more just like what I like. So like every time, like I said, I edit a set of images, I don't have like a specific thing where I'm like, I do like this grade on it and it does that. It just, whatever feels right in that moment. And like, sometimes I'll edit photos and I'll be like, oh my gosh, this feels like so different to the night I shot before. But then sometimes when I look at them all together later, I can kind of see how they all gel together. But like in the moment, it feels really different. But again, I think it's just what I like. And I think I was talking at SAE recently, and I showed them my show reel. And I was kind of watching it and I was like, it's really hard for me to actually say myself what the style is here. But all I know is that I like all these things. Yeah. You know, like it's the only thing that ties these things together is that I like them. And I think that's kind of the freeing thing. And the fun thing is not being like I do a gritty style, like I do a black and white, or, you know, it's just like sometimes that feels right and sometimes it doesn't. Yeah. So it's more of like a feeling that you want to portray in the in the things more than like a specific like style or genre of 100%. Yeah. I really think of concert live music photography as like a very like journalistic or like psychedelic medium, where it's like your like job is like to be between the audience and the artist and to kind of capture what's happening there, like the energy of the room. And everyone feels that differently. And I think that's where you get everyone's different perspectives on it. Yeah. But like whatever's happening in that room is what you're trying to kind of communicate to people who either went and want to see the photos later or didn't go. And I think it's like, you know, always the nicest compliment if someone's like, not like, oh, like that shot. Yeah, I remember that happening. But just being like, oh, that feels like what the concert was like. And it might not even be in like a literal way, but they can kind of, it kind of portrays like that.
Feel the feeling through the image.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that like, you know, over time you can go back and like for me, like the biggest example was shooting Loyal Kana at the town hall. I don't know if you went to that.
No, I didn't.
No, and I was so gutted that I didn't either.
It might have been like one of the best gigs I've ever been to. Like, and I don't really, I feel like New Zealand crowds, I don't always rate them super highly, but like it was like the best audience I've ever seen. Like it was just like, magic. Like everyone was so happy, and he was like bouncing off the crowd. Like you could just sense him just being overwhelmed by the energy in the room.
Yeah.
And so I think my favorite photo from that was like, it's just like a close up with a massive smile on his face.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, like you could worry that it's like, I don't know, cheesy, but I'm like, this is the feeling in the room. Like it was just joy. So like that photo makes more sense to me than like one of him like doing a big move or something, you know, in that moment. Yeah.
I think it's special too as a fan, because like there's nothing I love more than going to a live gig and like really feeling that goosebump moment and seeing people in the audience react like physically to the music that's being played. And then I think it's like quite rare that you get to see that moment of like a bit of a break in your favorite artists as well, because they are there to put on a show and be really polished. So when you have photography that captures like that emotional side, it's like, whoa, that's so cool.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, that was the thing that got me into concert photography. Was my favorite photographer, Greg Noir, who's an American photographer. Like he was the first photographer I ever saw who shot music, where I was like, I saw his photos and I was like, oh, like it kind of was like it felt like art all of a sudden. Like I feel like until that moment I'd been like passively engaging with concert photography, and then I saw his photos and I was like, oh, whoa, like, you know, like this feels like something different. And it wasn't because it was like literal moments from the show. Like it wasn't like, it's kind of why I hate the idea that it's like you're you know, that you're grabbing content from a show. Like, you know, like I don't like to use that word for content. Shows, because it's like, it's not about like the product afterwards. It's like literally like it's history. Like every show is a piece of music history in New Zealand or like anywhere, right? And like when you talk about music history, you're always using photographs, you know, and it's not like, oh, like this thing happened, this thing that happened, this thing happened. All you need is like one photo from that show to be like, oh yes, like this is what happened, you know, like that was a moment, you know. That's
so true. I also think like with the rise of technology and everyone having iPhones, and there's so many, dare I say it, you know, like iPhone photographers these days. I mean, I'm probably included in that to be fair. So, but I think it is special when we're not just seeing, you know, 3-minute clips of all the same angle, and it's a portrait 9:16 or 16:9 9:16 screen. So it is special to have those like key moments for sure. Those are what we'll look back on. Yeah,
and even then, like it's funny because I feel like, I don't know when it happened, but like I almost entirely stopped shooting in portrait in concerts like a couple of years ago, and I've only done it in landscape. I don't know if it was me trying to be like rebellious when like all the advice on Instagram is like, oh, like post like this and you'll get more engagement. But I was like, I just like, for me, very much just for, like from my perspective, like when I take photos, like there's so much more of the story in the landscape than in the portrait. And that's not always the case. Like sometimes, you know, a handful of shows I have shot it in that way. But yeah, it feels like there's like more story, even like in the dead space, there's kind of something to be told there.
Random question, when you're shooting live shows, do you ever feel like you are kind of watching the whole show through a screen, or do you really feel like you're in the moment?
Okay, I only feel like not in the moment if I'm doing photo and video at the same time, which I try not to do as much as possible, because I just find flipping between the two is actually like a really big jump. And maybe not, maybe artists, people don't understand as much how much of a jump that is, but like I'm always feeling like I'm maybe missing moments when I'm doing that, like because I'm just trying to, it feels that point I'm trying to make sure I'm covering everything. Whereas if I'm doing just one, then I feel like it can feel very in the moment, but it depends. Like there's sometimes, you know, you'll shoot like a tiny venue and it's like you're struggling with light, and it's like you're trying to balance the flash levels the whole show, and like I'm doing this and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. Like, and you know, like I leave and I feel exhausted and not really, and I think it doesn't really affect the final product, but it kind of affects how I feel when I'm doing it. But sometimes I'll shoot a show and I walk off and I'll just be like, that was great. You know, like, and it's always, you know, when the easier it is, you know, like the lighting and all of that, you know, it does feel like you can really get lost in it.
When you say, you don't think people quite understand how challenging it is to switch, is it like a technical aspect of that?
Yeah, it's technical, and it's like also just a different way of like framing shots and like holding shots. Like for photos, it's like you're just trying to get that like those brief moments, and with video, it's depending on what you're doing, it could be like longer moments or just like B-roll and stuff. But yeah, like I've kind of, because I shoot I've got 2 photo cameras and I've got a cinema camera now, and I like to film on that. So it means I'll have 3 cameras, and then I'm kind of like, it's like just, I don't know how, it's like just you're doing one thing and then all of a sudden you're completely doing like another thing. And then while you're doing the other thing, you're like, well, I need to get back to the other thing. And then I need like, it's actually fine, but I'm not doing it well as me. But like that is very much though, when to me, I feel like the least, like I'm nailing it. Yeah. Like I'll leave a show and I'll be like, you can't be like, oh, we'll see. Like,
we'll wait till we're behind the computer. We'll see what we got.
Everyone's like, how'd it go? And I'm just like, I don't know.
Now I know what you mean though, because it's almost like kind of, I guess, interviewing in a way as well. Like if you were constantly thinking about what the next part of the conversation is going to be or where you're going next, then it's really hard to be in the moment and kind of react to what's happening live. So I so get that. Do you have like a favorite photo that you've ever taken?
There's definitely a few. I mean, I feel like the one I've got pinned on my Instagram is Post Malone. I think that show, that was a nice show to shoot. Like I walked out of that and I was like, I had a big smile on my face and I was like, that was like, that was good. Like the lighting was good. Like, he was like high energy, like everything was popping on that. But I think, that photo I think I have a photo of him with a cigarette in his hand. I think that was like probably like a really clear example of the type of photo I'm always trying to get.
Yeah,
it just kind of like
feeling.
Paused in time type moment. So I really love that one. I think like a couple of the ones I got at Camp Flog Gnaw last year, like the one I got a Matt Champion jumping, and I mean I was always one on my bucket list to shoot Brockhampton and never got to, and now Matt's one of my favorite artists as a solo artist, and so getting to see his set and shoot that was pretty surreal, and then to get that photo of him that was nice because it kind of like they had the emotional connection to it,
like a full circle moment.
That was like the only full set I watched that weekend as well. So like that, I think I had one of Denzel Curry at Bay Dreams where he was like leaning back. It was like the exact type of photo I wanted to get of him, and it was like it happened really quickly and I wasn't sure if I actually got it, so like that was like a really cool one.
Cool.
Yeah, but there's been like some sets, like a lot of them, like I think there was like an artist called Aurora, like she played Power Station a couple of years ago.
Yes.
And that was like an absolute dream show to shoot. Like
she's so like magical, eh?
Yeah, and she had this like massive LED screen that was just like shooting light out, and like she was just floating around, and like like that was one of those shows where I was just like, oh man, this is really like you can really lock into it. And then a lot of them you just feel like you're fighting for your life. Like I remember doing No Cigar at the beginning of last year.
Oh yes.
And they just had like, it was at the Hollywood, and it was just like this like straight red, really like dim lighting, and like some of the boys from the band and manager were there, and they keep looking at me like, how are you going? And I was just like I was like, and then like I like sent them the photos, and I was just like, oh, like I don't know about this.
Oh, I'm
like,
sure they were fine.
And then like they didn't get back to me for like a few days. And which, as any creator knows, is just like 3 days of thinking everyone hates you. And then they got back and they were like super stoked. But I was like, like it's just, some of them you really like, what am I doing? Like, I know nothing. Like, like.
You're like, do you guys like any other colors than red by any chance?
There's definitely like a difference between shows that play well to an audience and on camera.
Yes.
And they usually, it's interesting. Like, I don't know where the priority should be. Like, but I think, more light on artists would be.
That is actually a really interesting point, though. And like with the way that the world is going and everything is kind of, whether you like it or not, like lived through a screen, really. Like, do you make your show around photos or live? Like, we probably will see it almost switch completely to just looking amazing for photos, right?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, especially on like the big stages. I mean, if
Yeah.
you look at like a lot of the big pop arena shows,
Yeah.
like they're very well lit.
Yeah.
But I still don't think there's any reason like smaller shows can't like have more bursts of light that are complementary to camera as well. Like I think anything when you got like big hard light coming from behind and the sides is
Yes.
like great and like still kind of plays moody. Like I remember at Laneway last year, Stormzy, like before he came out for his set, like they pulled out these like massive lights onto the stage, and I was like, yeah. I was like, and then he comes out and he's just like jacked, and like the lights were just like beaming off him, and I was just like, this is such a gift. Like this never happens. But again, like the drama's still there, like the silhouettes and
Yeah.
everything. Like it doesn't need to just be like bright.
Yeah.
To like, you know, like, but it's like putting like well positioned lights in
Yes.
certain places will actually, you know, be super effective.
Do wonders. Yeah, if you could instruct someone to produce a show literally just for the perfect photo, so you'd have light source behind and to the sides, you said, what else would you have?
I mean, I'd have an LED wall
Yeah.
that's definitely like right behind them pumping,
Yeah.
that's like pumped up. Like lights behind and like straight from the side, and maybe just like a little bit of fill coming from the top. Like, and it doesn't need to be like locked on. That could be like moving in and out of darkness, because all you need is like bursts of light. Like it doesn't need to be like just lit up the whole time.
Yeah.
But I think lights coming from behind plays really well from a crowd perspective too. You know, like creating those like big silhouettes and stuff.
Hugely, yeah.
But yeah, no magenta. No magenta.
No
What
magenta.
What do you got against magenta?
Bro, I have everything against magenta. It is objectively the worst color on skin. It's so bad. And I don't know like what function it has even like outside of photography perspective, like on stage. Like it just doesn't, you know, if it comes from behind and you're separating the skin tone from it, then sure. But like, yeah, but I love blue. Like give me blue. Like put blue.
So what's the main difference between the magenta and the blue? Like why do you prefer the blue?
Blue just looks nicer on skin. It's just easier to work with. And like if you have magenta, you're trying to make it not look like magenta. So you're trying to like work it probably back to a neutral skin tone. Whereas blue, I'm just like, cool, this is blue. It's staying blue. Some of my favorite photos, like I got one of, is it Nia Archives?
Oh, yeah.
Where she had she has like the bow. Was she playing violin? Was that Nia Archives? Or is it, am I getting...
I have no idea.
I think it was her. Yeah, but she just had this blue light, and she had like a kind of sheath and arrows, like for like the violin, I think.
Yeah.
And like just like this looked beautiful on her skin tone.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, well, going back to something else you mentioned earlier, Camp Flog Gnaw.
I was going to bring that up too. I was so desperate to talk about that.
Like, firstly, I want to know where you were when you found out you were going to be able to shoot it, how you were feeling, and then what was it like just being at like everyone's dream festival and being able to shoot it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I honestly can't remember where I was. I was probably at home when I found out. But I mean, I bought flights like 2 months before Flog Gnaw, and before the lineup came out, I bought flights, and before I knew I could shoot it,
You were just manifesting it.
Yeah,
I was gonna say.
I'm just gonna like try and make this happen.
Yeah.
And then the lineup came out, and I was like, okay, like I had to find a way now. And so it was Dan Woolston, who eventually got me linked up with them, and then like 2 days later, pulled through with a media pass for it. So it all happened like pretty quickly, and then so I was like, oh crap, I actually have to plan this now.
Yeah.
And I remember that week for you was a huge week as well. 'Cause that was Coldplay. We had that Music Managers thing, and then you were like flying off to go to Camp Flog Gnaw within like 5 days of each other.
No way.
Yeah. And so it was pretty whiplash, but just unbelievable. I mean, Camp Flog Gnaw for me was like, I went in 2019. And it was probably in hindsight like a turning point in my life going to that festival. It was the first time I'd been to anything like that big. And I think watching Tyler, the creator, perform there was like so many ways one of the most inspirational things I've ever seen. Just kind of the context of the whole festival being his, like built from the ground up. Like, you know, there was nothing inevitable about his rise, and like he brought all his friends up with him. Like he created this community, and I couldn't stop thinking the whole time. I was like, oh, parents must be so proud. But I was like, it was almost very like humanizing, and like a moment where he like felt like it was almost like a godlike moment, but I was like, I could see the work that went into it. So it was like really inspiring. And I think, you know, getting back to the shoot, it was just like such a goal and a dream. So yeah, it was surreal. It was exhausting. It was,
I could imagine.
Up to the second day.
How are you going to try, like, I'm sure you wanted to try see almost everyone that was on that lineup, and there's just absolutely no way you would have been able to.
You're really spoiled for choice, eh? Like,
Yeah.
it was just so many people where I was just like, damn, I actually can't.
Yeah.
I can't. I mean, I wasn't allowed to shoot Andre 3000 set, but I didn't even really get to watch it because I just didn't have the time. And he was one of the artists I was most excited to see. You know, like I didn't see artists like Denzel Curry, Action Bronson. Just really pick battles.
Yeah.
But it's like absolutely spoiled for choice there.
So who did you actually get to see / shoot?
So Blood Orange was up there. He was one of the top artists I really wanted to see. Schoolboy Q, Vince Staples.
Man.
Obviously like Matt Champion. The bigger artists were like the Marias. What's her name?
Dochi? You saw Dochi?
Oh,
Was
yeah,
it?
Dochi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That photo is one of my
That photo
favorites. I
was
love
so
that photo.
sick.
She
yeah.
was so great. Yeah. That was like, it kind of felt like it was right before the world kind of really caught onto it. Like it was like a really quick, like obviously like she'd been working for ages and then she went up and then like it kind of just bumped up even faster.
Yeah.
It kind of
Obsession,
felt
eh?
like it was like just before that second point.
Yeah.
So yeah, Dochi. Erica Badu. It's just like it was. But funny enough, was Sexy Red had the most, maybe the craziest crowd I'd seen all weekend.
Sexy Red.
Yeah, like absolutely, the crowd was going ballistic. It was the hardest set to get into
That
because
is
of like the
so
VIP. Like
Yeah.
just she wasn't even on one of the biggest stages. Like it just peeps absolutely just stacked. Yeah,
Whoa.
super interesting.
So who was your favorite set?
Probably Matt Champion.
Yeah, besides Matt.
Wrong answer. Give me another one.
Give me another one.
Maybe Dochi. Eve's Tumor was really cool. Yeah, probably Dochi outside of Matt Champion.
I would love to see Dochi live, bro.
Yeah.
Same.
I'm sure she'd be amazing.
Yeah, so talented. Yeah.
When you said, I've been given the media pass, now I have to plan this. What goes into planning? Like, what did you do before?
Well, it was more like finding somewhere to stay.
Okay, like the logistics.
Yeah, because I was looking into like accommodation at like kind of like an affordable rate, and it's just like nothing seemed ideal, and like everything seemed very like, because I was only there for a week, and I was like, it'd be nice to kind of see some people or like meet some people, and last thing I wanted to do was kind of end up in some like weird apartment room just kind of locked up on my own.
Yeah.
But I eventually found a place which was like on this like private Instagram page for people looking for places like to sublet in America, and it was like a house in the Hollywood Hills.
Cool.
And they had like a spare room, and it was like Harrison Ford's house in the 70s. And
Seriously?
it was like
Wait,
this.
what?
It was like this beautiful wooden house, like really like low key, just really like just like a beautiful place.
Whoa.
And like when I kind of came through, it almost like felt too good to be true.
Yeah.
And I probably paid like a little more than I would have, but I was just like, oh, this is going to be nice. And I was staying with like a couple of other creatives.
Yeah.
And it's just like a beautiful place to be in and like drive around.
Yeah.
And,
That's-
so that was really nice.
That's epic. And shooting this was a bucket list goal for you, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's insane. I saw that on your Instagram and I wanted to bring it up. So you said that you had 3-year goals.
Yeah.
So one was shoot at Camp Flog Gnaw, which you've ticked off.
Yeah.
Shoot at Coachella.
Yeah.
International tour leg with an artist, and then a music video for an international artist.
Yeah.
How are we going on the other 3 goals?
It's cooking, like no, there's no, it's, I don't think nothing's like immediately in the works at the moment, but like, I feel like kind of everything that like, I think with those goals, it feels like all the decisions I try and make feel like they're shifting in that direction, even if it's not like, oh, like this thing's leading to this thing. So yeah, I guess yet to be seen. Coachella's, yeah, maybe I'm have a look into what I can try do next year for that.
Yeah, no.
But not this year. I think Coachella is like definitely like the fortress to get into. Like pretty
I'm sure
well.
Everyone and their mum is trying to shoot that.
Pretty well protected.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
I'm trying to shoot it with my iPhone. Yeah, no. I mean, you only posted that end of last year, right? So you've still got it. You've got 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so
It's got a hell of time, bro.
That's amazing. You've already ticked one off.
yeah. Thank you.
Does it help, like, putting it out in the world? Because that's actually a really scary thing to do, and
Yeah.
no one does it often enough.
Yeah, I think that was the point. Is
Yeah.
I was like, I just want to like, you know, I think it's scary to say things that you want to do out loud in case they don't happen. But it's like, I think just being brave enough to be like, hey, this is actually what I want to do. And then if it doesn't happen, that's also like, okay.
Totally.
Like it's actually fine. Like
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
but I think the thing I've often found is if you tell people what you want, often there are people who can find ways to help you.
Yeah.
You know, like I think like there's so many people out there like and watching, and to just sometimes be like, I want to do this thing. You just never know who's going to be like, oh, well, I can help you with that. You know, so like there's actually nothing bad that can happen from putting out in the world what you want.
So true. It's particularly a benefit of our beautiful small little country as well,
Yes.
because everyone is connected. That's the cool part. Like
100%.
you know, yeah. No, I love it. I respect it.
Thank you.
What about the international artist goals? Do you have like a couple of dream, a top 3 artists that you would like that to be with?
Yeah, I mean, like obviously, like the dream is Kendrick. Like I'd love to shoot
Yeah.
at his show,
Kendrick fanboy,
but
I know.
he is maybe the most fortified. Is that the word? Fortified? Is probably the
Lovable?
hardest artist to get access to, especially for shooting their shows.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't let anyone shoot his shows except Greg Noir is the only photographer in the world
Right.
who has shot a show.
Interesting.
So yeah, I mean, I'm trying to move forward the energy that it's possible, but
Oh, for sure it's possible.
but yeah, I think like it's an interesting one because I'm like, I think I'm like in a slightly different place than I used to be. Like, I don't think for me, like I have a family and I actually love being at home, and I don't think there's a lot that could really take me away from home for like a solid amount of time. Like it would have to be something that I really cared about,
Yeah.
like an artist that I really felt some way about. Like I couldn't just do it for the sake of it.
So
like
if Drake offered you $1 million to go on
Fuck
tour, to go on tour with him,
fuck Drake.
a world tour, he pays you $1 million, and you'll still say no.
So you're asking me to sell my soul?
Yeah,
Nah.
that's wild.
Nah,
$1 million?
I respect it.
Nah, but it's
$1 million
like,
is
I don't know, man.
crazy.
Like, I mean,
That set you off for
do you-
life.
but bro, you said first, right? Everyone knows what a hater I am. If I were to just like swing the other way
That-
for money,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I mean, it's all like, I mean, obviously, I'm not joking, but then obviously he's never going to offer me $1 million to tour the world with him. But like
What if he does?
I don't know. Like, I think I feel a bit weird about it.
Yeah, he's definitely not going to do it now.
Yeah. But I almost think, in a way, like I'd almost like, it would almost be more meaningful for me to do some form of touring with an artist that I'm like, that I'm managing,
Yeah.
where I'm actually a part of like the bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that probably would be more something that would feel right now to me than just doing it for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I'd love to do like a leg of a tour with someone like Matt Champion, I think, like, or like maybe someone like Jid. Like, I think for me, like some kind of like, not like major artist, but someone who's like playing big rooms across the world, like really high energy, like really fun to shoot, like whose music I love. I think that would be really fun.
And artist management, is that a relatively new thing?
Maybe 2 years ago, I realized that I was keen to kind of start talking to Double Parked about managing them.
Cool.
And it kind of had never occurred to me before that moment. I was with Carlin at Coachella watching Gorillaz. And Carlin's in Double Parked, and I'd been helping them with photos and stuff, just you know, they the very early days
Yeah.
at that stage. And I kind of turned to him during the Gorillas, and I was like, bro, I was like, I should, you know, I was like, we should get double parked on this stage, you know, like that was kind of like the energy. But, you know, I was watching Gorillas, and I was like, it was kind of like one of those moments where I realized that the thing that gets artists to that point is not just skill. It's actually like this team and this like vision, and, you know, like, and I think realizing that for the first time and seeing management as an artistic venture and not someone who just checks things off and, you know, makes schedules was like a really big turning point. Because I think up until that point I'd said a lot that I wanted to help. I liked helping artists, but I didn't really have like a specific idea of what that actually meant.
Yeah.
So I think that was like the first time where I was like, oh, that's kind of what this actually means or feels like to me. So yeah, so from that point, it kind of was like months of Carlin filtering it out to the band, and I didn't want to rush anything. Like I wanted to make sure that I was actually interested in it and that like I was ready to commit, because I really don't like to start something if I'm not willing to go the full way. And it turns out everyone was keen, and I think it was like late 2023 that we decided to go for it. So last year was like the first like probably full year of figuring out what managing means.
Yeah. So what's it like going from concert photographer mode to artist management mode? Because I'm sure that's two completely different sides of your brain that you need to switch between.
It's interesting because I feel like I'm trying to like bridge everything together in a way that they're not separate, or like not entirely separate.
Yeah.
So like, I'm trying to explain this. Like, I think again, like talking about management is something that's creative. And I think talking about live music as being like my way of interpreting a concert to people, like how I felt about it, like what I saw. And I think for me, the way I've started to see management is that it's very similar in the sense that it's like I have this artist and I completely can see where they can go in my head and how I feel about them. And then now it's my job to learn to communicate that to the world and for it to help other people understand that.
Yeah.
So like, to me, they're kind of similar, but just with different kind of ways of getting there. So this past year has just been me figuring out the very, very basic parts of how to do that. Like,
It's a tough job, bro.
Yeah.
I don't see, like, a lot of people don't really see what managers do behind the scenes because they are behind the scenes like 99% of the time. And it's actually really tough because you have to be like a therapist, a friend, a manager. You have to be professional, but also like a friend at the same time, all in one.
Yeah.
And then you have to think about the promotion, whether the song's good, how we're going to market it, like press photos, music videos. It's all encapsulating. So what's like one thing that you've learned now being a manager that maybe you didn't appreciate from managers you had worked with in the past?
That's a good question. I think I'm like really aware of what I need from a show with with Double Park. Like a lot of the time, like, so we did a headline show last year and I didn't shoot it because it was like basically the first time I'd actually put on a show myself. So like I was just really, you know, wanting to focus on that. And so I got someone to take photos and film it. And like, just to meet, like I knew what I needed. I was like what I need from this show is I need footage of them actually playing live, because as much as it's nice to just get some like high B-roll, like that's not really going to help us with promoters and festivals, but to actually show that they can play to a room and you can see that in the energy and you're not hiding behind like quick edits and stuff. Like I just like immediately I was like, this is just what we need. Like I don't need anything more. Just get me like the footage of this and I'll be able to do stuff with it. You know, and I think like kind of, it's been really helpful for me as a photographer in a way to kind of, and as someone who films concerts, to actually be a little more like, where's this, like, what do you need this for? Because a lot of times I was filming stuff and sometimes they wouldn't use it, but then I think Jess B said to me a lot of the time they just want videos that go into the backlog. So that's kind of what I've been doing, is like I sometimes store footage or get people to shoot shows if I can't be there, and we don't always use it, but like I have it, and it's something I can use and kind of have for posterity or just to pull it out if I need to. So it's definitely been interesting looking at it from that perspective, and not just the perspective of like what makes a good photo or makes a good video, or it's also made me a bit more relaxed, I think, because it's like so often like I'm worried about like sending through a gallery and it needing to be this like perfect thing where like, you know, whereas like someone, you know, when we did our headline show, I had Jared Tonetti shoot it and he sent through the gallery, and it's just like it's hard to describe, but it was just like perfect. And I was like, it wasn't like because I went through every single photo and was like, oh, he did this and that. I was just like, oh, the energy's here. I was like, I can see whatever just happened is there, you know, like, and it didn't matter like about like the very specific editing or cropping of the photos. I was like, that, you know, capturing that was much more important. So yeah.
What would you say has been your biggest like struggle or your biggest lesson you've had to learn over the past year of being an artist manager?
I think I definitely got to the end of the year and we had a really good year, and I think initially in that last year I wanted us to get an EP done, and we kind of were like, yeah, we'll do an EP and we'll release it before the end of the year. And I think what I learned is that managing a band or like managing time is not just about setting like, be like, hey, we need an EP by this date. It's actually about managing all their time throughout the year and their energy levels, and like keeping them in like a space where they're able to do that. So like we did a lot of gigs last year, which was actually, I think was really good, but like we got 2 songs recorded, and you know, so I got to the end of the year and I was kind of like, why didn't we get there? You know, like, and I feel like I was like, okay, well, what could I do? What could I have done differently? And I was like, I don't think we set enough, like clear enough kind of like goals of like what we need to do. And if something else comes up, like going, is it worth doing this and taking away time from this goal? You know? And I think, so this year we started out really strong with that. We had like a really strong idea of what we want to do, where we want to go by the end of the year, and every decision's been made according to that. And so I think that was, you know, learning that I really need to be hands-on with that. And especially, you know, you got with a band, you got like 5 guys, you know, so it's like, it's keeping everyone again, it's a therapist thing, so like making sure everyone's good on their own. Yeah. Good in a band, like the multiple different versions of relationships in the band, keeping, you know, and I think I learned this year that I just want to do everything the hard way, because I don't think anything good happens the easy way. And I was like, I need to have, you know, hard conversations and be, you know, really be on certain things. Because, and I said to the boys at the beginning of the year, I was like, I actually think my biggest job now is to keep you together. Because in my head, if they stay together, there's absolutely no reason they can't kill it. But the hardest thing with a band is keeping everyone on the same track.
So true.
And like any band, you know, it's going to be like that. Yeah. So it's like, okay, what does that look like then? Yeah. Like keeping you together. It means having those hard conversations. It means making sure they're learning to communicate. Yeah. And I've seen examples of that happen recently, and I'm just like so proud of them, you know, like they're like, oh, this thing happened, and then they chatted through and it was fine. And I'm like, amazing, because you can't avoid that. Yeah. But you can learn to like deal with it and talk about it.
My husband's in a band and he always says it's like being married to 3 other people. Yeah. Like, it really is. Yeah. But that's the benefit of like an amazing manager. And I think it sounds like such an obvious thing to say, but I don't actually think it is that easy to execute, is like, as a manager, really knowing your artists as human beings and knowing their dynamics with each other, like you say, but also what makes each individual tick and what their priorities are, and making sure you're all aligned. And I think that, you know, they're lucky to have you kind of understand that side of it as well, because I don't think a lot of managers are like that, right?
Yeah. A lot of managers are very like, this is strictly a professional relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, I'm not talking to you outside when I need to talk to you. Yeah. And I can see why you'd want to do that. Yeah. Like, it's 2 sides to the same coin. I don't know if there's any specific right way to do that, coming from someone who wasn't as manager as well. Yeah. I always took it as if I'm gonna be talking to you every day, and if I'm in it for the long run, you're in it for the long run, we need to get along.
Yeah.
And that inevitably comes from us being friends.
Yeah.
If we're gonna spend months at a time touring, even just weeks at a time touring, like, I want to at least have some sort of positive relationship with you.
Yeah.
That's like we can connect on some way. And I think that's super important, is connecting to the people you're working with ultimately.
Yeah. I think like, I just don't see, I think there's always that thing where it's like, oh, don't work with family, don't work with your partners and stuff. But I genuinely think that good communication can solve pretty much everything. Like 100%. I've always felt that.
I agree.
And so I'm like, you know, like if you're just good at actually talking through things and like listening to each other, like you can be close and work through stuff. And I think you can do more, like you can do better things with that close relationship. You can really push people, you know, like, and it's like, you know, like, and it's like finding what motivates everyone individually too. Like, I think obviously like last year we always, you know, as you're doing bands, you have like all the big talk and big kind of dreams and stuff. But I kind of realized this year I've actually, interestingly, because we always talk about, you know, manager stuff. It's always like, oh, make the 5-year plan, make the, but this year I was like, I actually think what's going to work is to make a 1-year plan.
Yeah.
Because I think maybe what I found last year is that the further along you go year-wise, the more ambiguous, even if you've got a plan, it just becomes more theoretical. And I think like just making everything immediate, like this is what we're doing this year. Like we're going to get to this point and we're going to do this and this.
Yeah.
I think I've found, at least so far this year, that everyone's much more focused. Yeah. We like have a stronger sense of like purpose of why we're rehearsing.
Yeah.
And it not just being like, oh, like we're going to rehearsal today. Yeah. And we're going to rehearse the set or whatever. Like it feels very like much more methodical and energized. That's what I've seen so far anyway.
Yeah. And I'm sure all those decisions within that 1 year are all decisions that you'd make with the future in mind. So it 100%. Works, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's not going, oh, well, this is just this year. And
exactly.
It still is future building, but it's not going like, I think, you know, it is hard sometimes to like, because I'm very future minded. Like I'm very, you know, like my head is always like 10 years in the future. So I think I was trying to learn maybe that I actually scaling that back a little bit is more helpful than just throwing big ideas out there and being like, you know, like, because that can be overwhelming.
100%.
Yeah.
My husband Ollie and I have kind of developed this saying in the last maybe 8 or 9 months, which reminds me of this conversation. And we always just say 6 months at a time. Yeah. And literally when we start to think too big and we're like, oh, what will we, you know, do we want to be in New Zealand forever? Do we want to do this? We take it back to like 6 months at a time.
Yeah.
Like there is no point thinking too far ahead and getting stressed out about things that could be or might be or won't be. Like it's just, what does the next 6 months look like? And then we'll reassess in 6 months' time. Like it just kind of helps to, like you said, not make things feel so overwhelming and just live in the moment as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's definitely like a fine balance to make. But yeah, like the opposite of not of looking deeply into the future is not caring about that, you know, I think.
Yeah. Do you see room in the future for more artists under your management, or would you prefer to just stay with one?
I think so. I think, I don't know when though.
Yeah.
I think I really want to like figure it out first.
Yes.
I think it just, as you said, like it takes so much mental capacity and just so all encompassing. And like, I'd hate to kind of jump the gun and get ahead of myself and just keep bringing on other people and then not fully giving what I need to. And I also just right now can't imagine giving that amount of love and time to anyone else. Yeah. You know, it just that seems very overwhelming to me. Yeah. But I do think that that's kind of long term where I'd like to head. Like I think they played the Currents last year and that was their first festival, and I only took photos of their set, but it was probably like the proudest I've ever been in my career of like anything, you know. Cool. And it wasn't even like, you know, like technically the biggest thing I've been at or like been a part of, but it just like, you know, it felt like a moment, and you could see, you know, like just seeing their growth to that point. Yeah. And they just killed it. And, you know, I don't think I've ever been more proud, you know, like, and like they came off stage like, oh, how was it? I'm like, bro, it was perfect. They're like, oh yeah, but like maybe that was like a bit messy. I was like, no, it was perfect. Like, you know, perfect is not perfect, you know, like,
Yeah.
you know, like, it's like, it was perfect, you know, like, and so like, I think that was a big moment for me. Like, I think that really helped me realize a little bit of where I want to push things. Like, just knowing that that feeling was more satisfying to me than me, like, you know, doing other stuff on my own. Yeah.
I think there really is something uniquely amazing about being with like an artist since the beginning.
Yeah.
And then being a part of like those monumental moments.
Yeah.
Even if they're early on, like their first sold out show, their first tour, their first festival performance, their first 10,000 monthly listeners, their first million streams. It just hits a little bit different when you know where they've been to get to where they are now.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I love the long term. Like, I think the thing, if I struggle with anything with what I do, it's sometimes the short term nature of it. So it's like you come in to do a thing for a person, and whether it's actually the right thing for them or not doesn't matter. Like, I'm just doing what I need to.
Yeah.
And like sometimes I struggle with that less now because I think a lot of the artists I work with tend to have more kind of structure around them, and it feels like I'm a piece of like something moving forward.
Yeah.
But I think actually being part of the long term and like every little thing feeling like, oh yeah, that's a piece towards like this grander vision is really satisfying.
I always feel like it's way harder to get something to start moving than to keep it moving.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how to describe it properly, but it's so difficult to find your initial audience.
Yeah.
To like really get someone off the ground a little bit.
Yeah.
Than it is to keep someone off the ground.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, I completely see that. And I think that's also like, that's like the fun part of it, eh? It's like I feel like I remember I was with them at their first, like, because they used to play at like the Piha Bowling, like they started at, you know, West Auckland House Parties, Piha Bowling Club, the RSA, like, you know, tearing those places down. And then they did a gig with the Butlers that they got themselves by emailing the Butlers randomly, like on their like North Island tour. And I took photos for them at their first show in Whangarei, which was like their first show. And they were just like, I had no idea what was going on. They were just so green. And like, you know, they did really well, but I was like, oh yeah, cool, like sweet. And then like 3 months later, they played for the Butlers again at Galatos, but it was like it's one of those free events. So the place was like packed out and they absolutely just like shredded it to the ground. And I was like, you know, I was like, I could see like some, like that spark there.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's been like a series of moments seeing those sparks. And then like that's, you know, slightly getting bigger, and I'm like, I can see the fire, but I'm like just trying to, you know, keep it lit. Yeah. Or like actually get it so other people can see that. You know?
Feeding the flame.
I'm just kind of keep building that, you know, and that's what this year's about a bit, I think, is, you know, laying down all the foundation so that the back half of the year we can kind of, you know,
start building that house.
Yeah.
What do you think has been? Have I asked you this question already? I'm not sure. What's like your favorite part and your least favorite part about being like an artist manager specifically?
I think like my favorite parts are like being part of the creative process. Like I'm quite like I'm actually at a lot of their rehearsals, and like you know, like being like a part of like, you know, they'll be writing stuff and they're like, oh, that's me. And like if we do that song, we can do this and this, and like actually being like a part of like the inception of things, and like not just once something's ready is really fun, and kind of being able to just like throw ideas out and just, you know, throw stuff at the wall with them, whether it's a video idea or photos or just a plan, a scheme or something. It's like, it's really fun, like being in cahoots with like a group of people, and that's just cool. You know, and they're quite receptive. Like they're very much an outlet for my silliest ideas. Like, I have a very silly sense of humor, and they're like the perfect kind of, you know, vessel for that. So like it's fun just throwing, like we had a single last year, and I was like, we basically rolled it all out as if like one of our band members was pregnant, and with the song, like, and like we were just talking about the idea, and we were just pissing ourselves laughing, and I was like, it doesn't even matter if this works or not, like this is so funny to us. So we just, you know, but like just being able to kind of really get deep into those rabbit holes.
That's cool. And there's clearly enough trust there too, I was going to say, for them to actually be like, yeah, let's do it. Like we value your creative ideas, you know?
And the trust is built, you know, like it's like it was there at the start, but I think it gets deeper and deeper. But I think maybe the hardest part is just how vulnerable it makes you feel, because like every little thing that might slightly go wrong, whether it's like group disagreements like with each other or just like all these little things, I just feel so like you know, it's like your children.
Yeah.
You just feel so tied to every one of those moments, and it's really impossible to disconnect from that. And I don't think that's like a bad thing, but it's like it's just like a whole other emotional side of things to deal with. And, you know, like I guess I'm pretty emotional, you know, so if like there's like two people in the group not happy with each other, or just like little things, like I feel very like emotionally invested in that. And I feel like very like, you know, it's like if you've had a disagreement with a friend or something and it's hard to sleep or something, it's like I have that, but like if it's not with me and it's like them with something else, then like I take all of that on. So I think that's, I don't know if maybe I describe it as the part I like the least about it, but I mean it's just like inevitable, right? Like, you know, it's just like, I think it's the inevitability of really caring about something. It's like, it's just impossible just to go, oh, okay, well, this is a job, and like I'm going to bed now and it's fine, you know. Like
that's always the thing I struggled with the most, is disconnecting from that, and like really trying to like give me my own time, because one of my big goals this year is to try not to feel guilty about taking time off. Because I always feel guilty, even if it's for like 2 hours to watch a basketball game. I'm like, fuck, I should be doing this or I should be doing that. And I think especially when your whole job is centered around looking after a person or a group of people, that's so difficult to do. It's just like I guess even harder for you because you're also a photographer and you're also doing music videos, and you also have like your own family, like your wife and your child. In saying that, like, how do you find the balance of trying to do well or like give enough attention and time to all these different parts of your life?
It's a great question.
And I'm sure it's a very difficult thing to answer.
I mean, I'm constantly thinking about it, because like it's like I definitely feel like I think I've got a lot better at like being able to like stop working at certain times and stuff. Like I think I'm generally pretty good at that. I think the harder thing is like mentally switching off. So like I think physically I don't have many issues with being like, I'm keeping this weekend free, or we're going away this weekend. Like, you know, like with Homegrown, like if any jobs came up from that, I'm like, my friend's getting married, that's more important to me. Like I think that's all fine, but like to actually switch off is really hard, you know, and like to, you know, like to be like, oh, I'm just not going to be on my phone all night, and then but you're back in your mind like, oh, what if something happens, you know? And it's like so like I'm trying to figure out better systems to like help kind of balance that out, and I think it'll get better, and it's like a journey, but you know, I'm always trying to get better at that. And like, you know, obviously being a present parent is like the most important thing, and you know, that's what my dad was really good at and gave me, so like I'm really trying to make sure that's, you know, going to be kept along as well. But yeah, it's I feel like it's one of those things that you're always as long as you're on the journey, like going forward, it's all right, but there's never actually going to be like an actual, you know, easy cutoff.
And I think the most important thing is that you were aware of it and you were trying to maintain that balance. Like, honestly, that I don't think the same can be said for a lot of people. Like a lot of people just keep going and doing what they're doing, and then they reach the point of burnout and being like, oh my goodness, I've not given enough time to this, and relationships fall apart. So I think as long as you're actively aware of it, you're doing as much as you can.
I think at the end of last year I felt like a bit burnt out, and I definitely I don't take pride in saying like I know some people wear it as a badge of honor, like being like overworked and overbusy, like but every time I feel like I'm saying it to someone, I'm very regretful that I got to that point.
100%.
Like, and I'm just like, I'm mad at myself for letting it happen. So just trying to space things out a bit better, like putting a bit more care into my calendar and how I use time. And but again, like it's so up and down. Like I started the year pretty strong on social media, not, you know, getting my separation from things, and I'm reading and I'm not going to put my phone down, and then, you know, 1 month into the year, it's like, oh, we're back here again.
And it's so easy to feel like you're missing out if you're not actively on. That's the really hard thing. So it is kind of having that space with yourself to be like, I'm gonna survive if I'm not on my phone tonight, or, you know. The world will, like, it'll be fine. Exactly.
I got rid of TikTok and Reddit, so that's been helpful.
Oh, that is a massive. That's huge.
Bro.
Yeah, well done.
Reddit was becoming a very Yeah, like because I got rid of X ages ago, when that was just becoming like a hellhole, and then I think Reddit's kind of feeling the same to me at the moment, and so I was like, this is just like, open it every morning and it just stresses me out, you know, and it's not really like, I feel like I'm getting like informed in certain things, but it's like not in the way that I think is like productive.
Yeah.
So it's just too many opinions with the information is probably the thing.
Yes.
That's kind of probably the main thing. So yeah, so I've currently got rid of those. But now I just get Spotify for artists is the worst one.
Oh, bro.
Especially on like weaker release. I'm like, bro, like chill.
when I was like fully deep into managing, the first thing I do every morning, Spotify for artists.
I know.
Wow.
It's
Then
crazy, bro.
And I'm like, so do we get on a playlist this Friday? Do we get on a playlist? And I would be like, oh, like how many streams today? It's amazing because you have so much information at your fingertips.
Yeah.
That you can use to make informed marketing decisions.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I just checked like even multiple times a day.
Yeah.
Especially on like a release day, I'm like, okay, cool. It's only been out for 3 hours and we already have certain amounts of streams. And then like, oh shit, the first weekend, now we're at 10K.
Yeah.
And it's like, you get too caught up in the numbers. But I love it, but it's like a love-hate relationship.
Yeah. Like it's like good. Like it's nice though, because it's like, it is part of like, it does feel like in a way that every little bit of that is part of that building block.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like if you wake up and there's, you know, like recently we've had like one of our songs which came out like a year ago is just like, it's that thing where it's like you can never like never really know where a song's going to go, but it's just like slowly been picking up steam on like radio and getting pushed into like bigger radio over the past like 4 months, and then it kind of got bumped into Discover Weekly, and then it's just like, you know, like I've just been kind of watching that progress, but like it's been like we've just been tracking it and being like, whoa, this is actually kind of crazy, like you know, like this is a song we were like almost taking off our set list, and now it's like by far our most popular song.
We were literally talking about that the other day, weren't we, about how we think more artists should give more love to their back catalogue and like some of their older songs rather than just pushing the new stuff all the time, because it's still a moment in time that you captured and it's likely going to hit with someone online. So,
especially like when it's early days for an artist too, where it's like you really don't have that many eyes on you already, you know. So
you might as well just try some shit.
Yeah. I've been sitting on this for like the last 10 minutes when you when you said that you trusted to get a bit creative, like with music videos and stuff with Double Parked. Are we going to see a Muppets Double Parked video?
Oh, that would be crazy.
Muppet Treasure Island, but
that would be crazy.
Boys, if you're listening to this, I don't know whether or not you'd want to do this.
But we would absolutely
it would be cool,
do that.
It would be cool.
We are doing like, we really wanted to push more into like a really like whimsical surrealism. So like that would definitely fit.
It works.
You know, all the ideas are getting like much more like silly, like and like over the top. So like I would absolutely go down that path, or even just, you know, puppetry and music video. I love to do something like
cool.
that. Yeah, I love that stuff. Yeah.
How do you feel about music videos in general? Like just in this day and age, we're so into short form content these days and social media and quick little like 15-30 second grabs. Obviously you direct them and you create them. Do you think it's a dying thing, or do you think there's going to be a place for it forever?
Was this what you had your hot takes about when you were just the other day?
I don't know if it's a hot take. I mean, I think like, I mean, I'm very realistic. Like I definitely understand that music videos do not have the same impact, generally speaking, that they had in like the 90s or the early 2000s. But I kind of feel like my take on a lot of this stuff is that I think a lot of information artists get nowadays is about the best way to get like engagement and to kind of break into algorithms, which is very short term.
Yes.
And and a lot of it plays into this idea that relatability is what you need to push to kind of make it as an artist, or at least get some attention as an artist. And my view on artists is that like, I just think like we actually don't want relatable artists. We want aspirational artists. Like everyone who's really like cracked it, like whether it's like a star or someone who's like, you know, big bands or like artists who are kind of on the rise, they're kind of capturing something that's more like aspirational, and we look at them and we want to be like them. And if that's in a way that it's like relatable, like Fred again, there's still like an aspirational quality to how he engages with his fans, even if it's like feels accessible. And I think so much feels like very short-sighted. And so when I think about music videos, I think what they provide is like, it's this visual, the world you're creating. It's like this visual identity for an artist. It's the same as like cover art. It's the same as like when we talk about like concept photos. It's like all of it is part of this like world building. And every artist who really has cut through makes big music videos. You know, like music videos are like a part of that, you know, like, and I think of like Kendrick Lamar, Tyler the Creator, even Charlie XCX, like all these artists, like they're using videos still to tell these stories and to like create something that is unique to them. And I think like, yeah, like sure, like your music video is probably not going to get as many, like, you know, a lot of the time artists do make music videos and then they get like 1,000 views. And like it costs like $7,000, but like is it going long term? Like, what are you trying to build towards? Like, if you're really trying to push yourself and trying to build something, like then the video will probably have its time. You know, it's like a part of that journey and documenting that. So yeah, I think that's kind of my view on it. But I do respect, like, and I think now, like, especially as like a manager, like I do understand that, like, say if an artist gets funding, like it's really easy to be as a filmmaker like, oh, you know, give us as much as you can. But I do understand that, like, you got to balance that with actually being able to like market it and put money into that side of things. So I do think it's not worth just throwing all your eggs in that basket, but it's like you can be really creative and not spend a lot of money. You know, they don't have to be these big complex things. But it's just like little bits of world building. I mean, even if you look at artists like Aidan Fine and like what he did years ago, and he just do these like short snippets, but they were like really creative. Like, you know, they really kind of set up a world or like who he was or trying to be. Yeah. And like, it doesn't take as much to do that. So like, I think of it like a bit more like holistically. But I think I really don't like the relatability thing. I just don't think there's any artist who really kind of cuts through like emotionally. Like I think like artists to me are like, they're the ones who say the things that most people feel but can't say, you know. So like they'll say like whether it's like a lyric or how they perform or how they dress, you know, you look at them and you're like, oh man, like, you know, like you know, look at Charlie XX, right? Like she's a great example of that now. Like just the way she just doesn't give a fuck, you know, true. Like, and like just the things she says, the way she performs, like her public persona, like it's not, if like, you know, you could say it's like people are like, oh, that's so relatable the way she does that, but they want to be like that, you know, to live that freely. So
that's so true. It's like the artists that actually embody the saying that we use so commonly now, like say it louder for the people in the back. Like that is actually like that's who we are watching and admiring these days.
Yeah. And I mean, like I think like you look back over time, right, and it's just like every great artist is just, people just looked at them like, wow, like I can't, and whether that's the voice or just the type of music they made or how they performed or their music videos, like they kind of just, they stop you in your tracks and you're just like, that's insane. Like, you know? And I think that's what it's good to strive for, you know. And I think that's that thing, right, that's trying to be too cool or not wanting to care is like, I hate that, you know. And that's a big thing we've talked about in Double Parked, is I see it a lot more in like bands sometimes, is like this kind of like wanting to portray this like really kind of like cool lack of care, but I'm like, let's just like show that we give a shit about this. Let's like have fun and like show that this is like a fun thing and that we love it, and not pretend that it's anything else.
And I think audiences these days as well are able to tell the difference between like true authenticity and people who are putting on a front. Like I think people can see it through it easier than we think.
That's what Kendrick was talking about on The Beef.
Do you have any words of advice for people who would want to get into doing what you are doing so well?
Just keep making things that you love. Like find ways to make things that you love and keep doing it, and keep making mistakes, and then keep making more. If it's like films or photos, just like keep shooting shows, keep making videos, and like just figure it out. Don't worry about like who you are or your style or anything. Just follow the things that you love and just keep going. and just don't stop. Like if you want to make it, like you will, like you just got to keep going. And like I think the people who really do, when you look at it, are just the ones who just were like gonna do it no matter what.
Yeah.
You know, and I think like just love, you know, and share what you do and like be proud of it. Like I think if you love it and you're proud of it, then that'll eventually start to catch on.
Yeah, it'll show.
Those are some amazing words of wisdom right there.
I know. I think we should probably end it there, to be
Well,
fair,
but-
because I don't know if we're going to top that. All I really have to say is thank you. Thank you for chatting to us. Like, I have learnt a lot, and it's been really inspiring to hear you talk and hear you talk about, you know, share some words of wisdom and the behind the scenes of your craft, because, we love what you're doing, so keep it up.
Thank you so
Let's
much.
go. Shout out,
Really
Tom.
appreciate it, and you know, keep up the good work yourselves.
Thank you.
Thank you, bro.